Hi, this is the voice, Michael Chiavello. You're listening to the Premium Oddscast, hosted by leading MMA odds maker Nick Kalikas, fight scientist and author of Fightnomics Reed Kuhn, and MMA journalist Brian Heminger. The absolute best UFC betting info, picks, statistics, and analysis from the most respected authority in mixed martial arts betting, MMAoddsbreaker.com.
Welcome to the Premium Oddscast, presented by 5 Dime Sportsbook. I'm Brian Heminger, joined today by leading mixed martial arts oddsmaker Nick Kalikas to break down this Saturday's UFC Fight Night 84 event, which takes place in London, England. If you're unfamiliar with our format, myself and Nick will break down the fight card from top to bottom, providing extensive analysis and a pick for each fight after doing our film study for the event. Looking back at our last event, we didn't have any premium bets for UFC Fight Night 83, but we did offer a freebie on Sean Strickland, and he did end up picking up a late third round TKO. Back to the present, UFC Fight Night 84 features a 13-fight card in total and will be aired on UFC Fight Pass in its entirety this Saturday afternoon. Let's dive right in. Now, kicking off the preliminary card is a lightweight battle between a pair of Ultimate Fighter Season 22 veterans in David Tamer, who is 3-1, and Martin Svenson, who is 14-5. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Svenson minus 135, the comeback on Tamer minus 105, so virtually a pick'em with a slight lean towards Svenson. The line has since flipped. It's now Tamer minus 145, the comeback on Svenson is plus 125, and that's at our sponsored sportsbook, 5dimes.eu, so make sure you guys go check those guys out. And right now, a little bit more action coming in on Tamer, and I'm a little bit surprised, and I'm a little disappointed as well, because I think people are on the right track here. I mean, both these guys are quality. I think they both honestly deserve to be in the spot to getting their chance in the UFC as well, because I mean they definitely have the skill set to compete and win fights. So I like what I see. Both of them are from the Ultimate Fighter 22. Basically what you have here, Svenson is your grappler and Tamer is more of your striker. Now, it goes beyond that because both of them have a little bit of everything, but what I've been impressed with the most is Tamer's ability to keep the fight on the feet for the most part. I mean, he has some questionable takedown defense at times. I mean, he has been put on his back, but he's hard to hold there. He's managed to, in most cases, keep the fight upright as well. And then on the feet, he's a tremendous striker. I mean, he uses all parts of his game really on the feet. And he's constantly improving. Has accuracy. He's got power to go along with it. He's got decent cardio. Everything that you want to see in a fighter, up and coming fighter, and is really what you get in Tamer. Now, of course, he's training with the All-Star gym, so he's training with Gustafsson and crew over in Sweden. So I just think really we're going to keep seeing this guy get better and better fight by fight. And for Svenson, he's your type of fighter that honestly, he looks to take the fight to the ground. I mean, and he's pretty smooth. He loves to get top position and then work his submission game from there. He's a long rangey fighter. Obviously his grappling is his best attribute. He has really smooth transitions on the grounds and always looking for a finish. So this guy is very capable of submitting people and dominating the ground game. Now that's where Tamer has to be careful here because Svenson gets on top. He starts getting position. He looks for the finish and Tamer could be in a little bit of trouble here with that on the ground. But I think overall how they match up, again, it's going to be pretty close. Svenson's going to want the takedowns. One bad thing about Svenson that I've noticed along the way in his career thus far, he is quality, like I said, from top to bottom, but at the same time, he does have a little bit of a suspect chin. He's been knocked out a couple of times, and Tamer has the type of power that if he sprawls and brawls effectively, he's going to probably end up finishing Svenson along the way. He's got that kind of special knockout power to go along with it. So, in my opinion, I think Tamer is able to keep it upright. I think he is going to probably land that knockout punch. But if he doesn't, I think he's still going to be able to squeak out in a very competitive decision because I know Svenson's going to be all over him, try to kind of stick to him like glue even up against the cage and slow the fight down because in space, Tamer's going to pick him apart really. So I think Tamer does do what he does best, and that's outstrike Svenson and probably get the knockout win. So I am going to pick Tamer to win this fight. And we'll probably see some back and forth action come in. We might see the line drop a little bit more. So just keep an eye out where it is now. But I do lean Tamer to get the nod, and I understand why the early action's coming in for him as well.
Footwork will be the key to this fight. David Tamer is an extremely accomplished striker, and he showed it on The Ultimate Fighter, had some very impressive performances, picking up a couple wins before eventually losing to one of the semifinalists by decision. And Svenson, while he is a good overall grappler and submission threat, I think he's not nearly as dangerous because while he is good on the ground, his wrestling isn't great. He's a bit slow on the feet, and he's not very accomplished there. So it's going to be all about whether or not Svenson can kind of corner Tamer and put him against the fence, or maybe take advantage of Tamer making a mistake and opening up too much and trying to get a takedown, because on the feet, Tamer is going to obliterate Svenson. Realistically, we've seen Tamer fight a grappling threat in the past. Before he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he actually had an opportunity against a guy that was almost pure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he fought very conservatively, stayed on the outside, did not engage when his opponent shot in and maybe flopped their back off of a failed takedown, and he ended up winning a decision. He's content to do that if he needs to. And I think that's what Tamer needs to do here, is just avoid inside exchanges. Don't let Svenson get his hands on him at all. And if Svenson starts to get frustrated and starts to aggressively push forward, that's when Tamer strikes and really clocks him with some counters. And then again, it gets back to dancing around on the outside. He really needs to use his footwork here, and I think he can do it. I think that the training at All Stars is going to really come together for him, and I expect Tamer to either win by knockout, although I would be surprised if he did, or most likely decision just by outpointing him from the outside. Now, sticking with the lightweight division, we have Teemu Pelen, who is 7-1, taking on Thibault Gaudy, who is 11-0. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I opened Gaudy minus 130. The comeback on Pelen minus 110. Right now, over at 5 dimes, it is Gaudy minus 130. The comeback on Pelen is plus 110. So line margin is tightened from a 40-cent to a 20-cent line, and there is split action coming into this fight. And it is a kind of a tricky fight to pick for sure. Again, Gaudy is another guy from the Tough 22 show that we were just talking about. Very talented guy. I think he's an impressive prospect overall. He is taking this fight on short notice. But on the Tough show, from what we got to see in him, I mean, he did lose his first fight to actually one gentleman that we were just talking about, to Tamer, and in a very close fight, though. It was a great fight. It was one of the better fights, I think, on the season there. So he competed, in my opinion, with one of the better fighters from that show, and he lost a close decision. So there's definitely some potential with Gaudy here. He's a well-rounded fighter. His striking game is definitely on point. I think he's got nice boxing. He likes to push a high pace, has power in his hands as well. And I like the way he utilizes his combos. He even mixes kicks and knees in well. His wrestling is actually solid. He's got a ground game to go along with it. So he's a very complete fighter. My question mark is with Gaudy, he does have a tendency to fade at times as the fight goes. So his cardio is a question mark, and especially since he is taking this fight on short notice. But from what I've seen, I mean, he's definitely a guy that can beat you on the feet. He's a guy that can hang with you in the wrestling department. And he's a guy that can win by sub as well. So there's a lot to like about Gaudy in this spot here. But Pelen, on the other hand, I mean, he's not bad either. I mean, he was a very hyped prospect coming into his debut fight against LeBeau. He took that fight on short notice. He lost a competitive decision, and he did fade in that fight as well. So cardio for both these guys is going to be interesting. Now, Pelen, of course, has a full camp for this fight where Gaudy does not. And Pelen is kind of hard to train for and adjust for because he does have some length. I mean, he's more of a grappling-based fighter, so he likes to take the fight to the floor and use his grappling game and look for the submission as well. But even on the feet, he's got some length, and he's able to make things at least awkward or a little bit unorthodox, and he could be effective in all areas of the game as well. So this is really going to come down to, can Pelen get this fight to the floor? Can he control Gaudy along the way? Can he possibly get him down and submit him? I don't think he will. I think what's going to happen here is Gaudy's going to be able to, again, kind of sprawl and brawl along the way. He might get put on his back. I think he could scramble out of position. I think he's going to probably pick Pelen apart on the feet a little bit, do some damage along the way. I'm expecting a pretty competitive decision, hit the scorecards, but Gaudy's going to probably take it here. I mean, both these guys are capable of finishing fights along the way, so I wouldn't be shocked if we see a finish either way. But I do expect Gaudy to come through here because, honestly, Pelen did struggle a little bit, again, in his debut. Loss, and I think there's still more holes in his game at this point of his career than there is for Gaudy, and I just have a little bit more confidence in him. So I do think he's going to probably win on the cards, possibly get a finish, but I think Gaudy is the right choice here, so I'm going to pick him to win.
On paper, Pelen does have some advantages here, being the bigger fighter, having a full training camp, being the more well-rounded fighter because of having a pretty good wrestling and grappling game overall, but I think Gaudy makes up for it by the fact that he is quicker, and is by far the better striker, and actually should have a conditioning edge despite Pelen having a full training camp. We've seen Gaudy go the distance. We've seen Gaudy go at least into the third round, especially his last fight against Anton Quivanen, a UFC veteran, and he took care of business in that fight. Weathered Quivanen's early aggression and then punished him with a third-round knockout. I mean, this guy definitely has some skill, and he actually competed on The Ultimate Fighter Season 22 as well, but he actually lost in the opening fights to get into the house against David Tamer in a very competitive back-and-forth striking battle. So that just shows you how good Tamer is with his striking, because Gaudy is excellent as well. But Gaudy's a little bit more boxing-focused compared to Tamer having the kicking arsenal as well. Now, if this fight stays standing, I think Gaudy lights Pelen up. I really do. Pelen is just a little slow and measured with his striking and does not offer a ton of power overall. Most of his power is if he can get on top of his opponents and then he just lays into him with some punches on the ground. So really this fight's all about whether or not Pelen can get his hands on Gaudy and take him down. And it could happen because Pelen does have some pretty good overall wrestling and takedowns and ability to close the distance. And we saw that even in his UFC debut. He went out there and got on top of LeBeau early, but just began to slow down, gassed a little bit, and then gassed a lot by the end of the fight, and LeBeau took over. So I think that could happen right here. Unless Pelen gets a quick finish by submission, then I think Gaudy can handle what he brings in the second and third rounds and either win a decision or knock him out. This guy has serious fight-ending power, and his right hand especially is very dangerous. And while Pelen has a pretty good chin overall, I really think what Gaudy offers on the feet is going to be a little bit too much for him. LeBeau was a little bit more of a volume striker, but Pelen can crack. So I think I'm going to side with Gaudy as well. It's just all about weathering that early storm from Pelen, and if he can do that, then I think he wins. Now moving all the way up to the heavyweight division, we have Daniel Omechuk, who is 17-5-1 with one no contest, taking on UFC newcomer Yaris Danho, who is 6-0. Now Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in Danho, -130. The comeback on Omechuk, -110. Right now, it's actually -110 each way. So line margins tightened up from a 40-cent line again to a 20-cent line. And that's what you're getting out there with two-way action coming in, but a little bit more coming in on Omechuk early on. Tough fight. I mean, you got two heavyweights that obviously are capable of doing some good things. I mean, Omechuk this far in his career has been really a disappointment. And it's a shame because I thought, honestly, personally, the guy has a little bit of skill set to win some fights in the UFC. I mean, he's got some striking. He's more known for his grappling ability, but at the same time, his grappling ability in the cage thus far hasn't been that great. And I think his best part of his game is really his striking. I mean, he's got some speed. He's got some power. He mixes things up well. But the way he's been matched up thus far, I mean, it hasn't really been good. He's been matched up with big, strong guys. I mean, Rochhold, Hamilton were able to basically control him and beat him in grinding, grueling, kind of slow-paced fights that were just, unfortunately for Omechuk, he wasn't able to keep those guys off him and do his thing. And now in his last fight against De La Roca, he was able to get some space, and he looked great in that fight. He got a knockout win. So it was good to see him kind of bounce back and get on track because like I said, I thought the guy had some potential. But speaking of potential, Danho is another guy making his UFC debut now, and I think there is some potential with him. I mean, he's a big, strong heavyweight. He's actually for a former powerlifting background he has, which is pretty impressive. So that tells you something. He actually has to cut to get to 265. So that's what I'm talking about with his size and strength. The guy definitely has some power. He's got some athleticism to go along with it. And the cool thing about Danho is outside of the UFC, believe it or not, I mean, a lot of times these guys, their resumes are really not that impressive. I mean, they fight a lot of weak competitors and they get these easy, really padded records type of wins. And Danho doesn't have that. He's actually got some solid wins on his resume for being outside of the UFC. So at 6-0, he's actually off to a pretty good start. I mean, he's still raw. He's developing his skill set overall, but he has some serious power on the feet, and he utilizes actually his wrestling well offensively. He likes to stay in close. I mean, he doesn't really like to stay in space and strike, even though he does have some power even on the outside, and he's able to land. He likes to kind of close that gap and work inside. likes to put pressure against you up against the cage and utilize his striking attack and dirty boxing there, and then go for takedowns. And he's got some really heavy ground and pound as well. So he's dangerous really wherever the fight takes place because of his size and his power and his athleticism. Now he does have some flaws though. I think his takedown defense definitely needs a little bit more work. He does slow down as the fight goes, but honestly, for a heavyweight his size, his cardio, I was actually impressed with it. So he's the type of fighter that he could fight a little bit tired and he'll make 3 rounds. I mean, in a lot of debuting fighters his size, you can't really say that about. You can't trust your cardio. So he's got a lot of things to like about him. This is going to be a battle. I mean, this is going to be a serious test for both guys because Omechuk is facing another guy that he kind of had problems with stylistically with Hamilton and Rochold, another big, strong guy that's going to be able to bully him a little bit. So I'm going to lean towards Danho just because of that factor. But it's not a confident lean at all.
Yeah, Danho, Nick mentioned the word raw, and that probably is the absolute best way to describe Danho. He is a very physically imposing fighter. Big, strong, pretty athletic, and that's really the way he wins fights is he's not particularly technical in any area. He's not going to go out there and get a crazy submission. He's not going to hit a Superman punch to knock you out from distance. He's a guy that gets in your face, pushes you into the corner if it's in a ring, against the fence if it's in a cage, and then just starts unloading against his opponents with knees and uppercuts in the clinch. Dirty boxing is the name of his game. This guy basically is a bully in the cage. Just not particularly technical in any area, but just very big, very strong, and knows how to use it. So what he needs to do here against Omechuk absolutely is avoid being in open space, and then he has to use some footwork here to close the distance because otherwise Omechuk will just dance circles around him from the outside. But if he can do that, if he can cut off the cage and then kind of bull rush Omechuk into the fence, then I see him just hammering Omechuk with knees and elbows and uppercuts. Uppercuts are the name to his game. He actually doesn't just focus on uppercuts to the head. He'll drop them down to the body. And one thing he does not have going for him is he doesn't really have one-punch knockout power. Even though he's so big and strong, it's kind of a slower twitch muscle where he's not able to just get off these quick, sharp strikes. So what he's going to have to do is just kind of death by 1,000 cuts, just pound away until his opponent just wilts. And he can do that for 3 straight rounds. I mean, the guy can really go, has a high motor, which is impressive for a heavyweight. Omechuk, on the other hand, he's definitely the smaller fighter here, but he does have the speed advantage. He's a little bit more technical. He's way more technical in terms of the striking game, but he gives up so much size, it's going to be difficult for him to take advantage of that. Omechuk does have a good left hand. He's a southpaw. So if he can stay on the outside and just try to pepper Danho as he's charging in, then he could win this fight. Or potentially, if Omechuk can get on top position on the ground, there's a possibility he could take over there, although that's not one of his big strengths, but he does have some competency there. So, and Danho has been taken down a couple times in fights before. So, honestly, what I think happens here is Danho bullies Omechuk and either gets a TKO or a decision, most likely a TKO since it is a heavyweight fight. But Omechuk, don't completely sleep on him. He's looked terrible so far for the most part in his UFC career, but he's looked terrible against guys that were able to get him on his back. And I don't know if Danho can do that. He's definitely not an elite wrestler or anything, so he's going to be relying on a lot of his natural ability. And if he can't do that, then Omechuk could win. But I do think Danho is able to bully Omechuk, and I do expect him to get that finish. So my pick is Yaris Danho. Now dropping back down to the lightweight division, we have Norman Park, who is 22-4-1, taking on Rustam Habalov, who is 17-3. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
Helping Habalov minus 300, the comeback on Park plus 220. And right now it is minus 250 for Habalov. The comeback on Park is plus 210. So line margin's tightened up a little bit and the line has dropped because a little bit more action coming in on Park thus far. I'm okay with it. Honestly, I know both of these guys are obviously quality lightweights. They deserve to kind of be where they're at. They've had some impressive wins throughout their career. I mean, in fact, Habalov actually, in my opinion, was beating Ben Henderson before his cardio kind of let him down. And that's one issue that I think in a 5-round fight, especially, you got to be concerned about Habalov moving forward as well. But this is not a 5-round fight. This is a 3-round fight. So in my opinion, it's going to be a very difficult fight for Park, because really the only advantage I see in this fight for Park is his boxing. He might have a little bit better technical boxing coming forward. He likes to push forward. He does pressure opponents up against the cage and look to basically control the tempo of the fight. He's not going to be able to do a lot of that with Habalov, though. I think Habalov is obviously, even in open space, he's a little bit better as far as his unorthodox skill set goes. I mean, he's not going to have the boxing the Park has, but he does have, I think, more effective power with his hands. And then, of course, he throws in kicks very well. He mixes that up. And that's why you can't really, he's a little bit more, I should say less predictable in this case than Park is. You know, basically what Park's going to do, he's going to come forward and do his thing. And now as far as the wrestling goes, I mean, normally you could say that Park has an advantage over most competitors, but against Habalov, he does not have that advantage. I know Habalov lost to Martins on the ground. He was taken down and controlled a little bit in that fight, which was surprising to most, but I don't think Park's going to be able to do the same thing to him, honestly. So I think this is what this is going to come down to. Is who is going to be able to control the cage a little bit more, who's going to be more effective. And I think even though Park might be the more technical striker with his boxing, I think Habalov is going to be the more effective striker on the feet with his power and, again, his unorthodox kind of technique. I mean, he's technical in some ways, but, again, he just throws stuff at various angles. His footwork's, I think, a little bit better. His movement's a little bit better. So it's going to be harder for Park to get in there and really be effective with him. And then I think as far as the takedown game goes and the submission game goes, Habalov has a huge advantage there. I think his wrestling is a little bit better. He could, of course, we all know he loves to suplex people, slam people down as well. And then I think as far as offensive submission game goes, he's going to be more effective in that area as well. So in my opinion, this is a bad stylistic matchup for Park, and Habalov needs to basically get back on track because, in my opinion, he was one of the guys that could make a title run and be a threat really to anybody holding the strap at lightweight. So, and for Park, he was more, I guess in my mind, I don't mean to disrespect the guy, but he was more of a gatekeeper type of role, in my opinion. He's a very solid fighter, a solid veteran at this point, but he's a tough out, but I don't think he's got what it takes to actually wear the title where Habalov possibly could. So that's what I'm trying to spit out here. So I'm going to go with Habalov to win this fight over Park. I think he can decision Park in 3-round fights. I think if there is going to be a finish, it's probably Habalov finishing him as well. So there's just more signs pointing to Habalov for me. So I'm going to go that way.
Park is definitely a competent fighter, well-rounded and capable against just about anybody. But I really think that Habalov is going to pick it back up here because, I mean, he was a guy that was almost contending in the lightweight division, main eventing against Benson Henderson, and then just fell off a little bit because after the loss to Henderson and then the last one to Martins where it was a competitive decision where he just didn't do much. If that happens again here, then Park could win because Habalov, when he focuses too much on his striking, then he can get outstruck. And if his opponent is not as concerned about the takedowns, then they can take over. Habalov does have power on the feet, but he does not really able to outwork or outpace his opponents with his standing striking. He's more of a one-off type of striker. And what got him here and what actually surged him up the ladder was his elite wrestling, the fact that he can get a hold of people and just toss them on their heads. And that's what made him very exciting. That's something that not a lot of people can do. So if he can go back to his roots here and just start smothering people, whether it is with takedowns, whether it's in the clinch, whether it's with throws, then that's where he starts to turn it around. Now, Park is a guy that I think can be taken advantage of in that situation. It's just all about whether or not Habalov is going to commit to his wrestling a little bit more. Now, he did spend most of his training camp, or all of it pretty much, in Dagestan this time. He did not go to Greg Jackson's. I think he was a little frustrated that he spent his whole training camp training for Adriano Martins by working on his striking. And this time I think he's going back to his roots. We'll see when the fight plays out. But I think you're going to see the old Habalov here. And if that does happen, then look out Norman Park, because Habalov will be aggressive. He'll be looking to throw him around. And then when Park is worried about the takedown, that's when Habalov's power can come into play, because he can find some openings to land some good strikes. Park is a pretty good high volume type of striker, and if he can get going on the feet, then he can definitely score some points and potentially win a decision. But I don't think Habalov lets him off the hook and leaves him in open space too often. And if that happens, or if Habalov does not give Park the space, then I don't see a way for Park to win this fight. So I'm going to side with Habalov. I think he gets back on track, and I think he picks up a decision win. Now moving up to the middleweight division, we have Bradley Scott, who is 10-3, taking on Krzysztof Jotco, who is 16-1. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in Jotco, minus 135, the comeback on Scott, minus 105. And right now, Jotco is getting a little bit more love. It's minus 165 for Jotco. Scott is plus 145. Another tough fight. I mean, this is a very competitive fight in my opinion, because Scott's been one of those guys that really, I don't know, he's been a bit disappointing, because I think he's got so much talent, so much potential with his size, with his skill set. And he just seems to, I don't know if it's fight IQ. He just blows opportunities at times. Now, this is going to be another tough fight for him, because Jotco matches up relatively well with him. I think that Scott a lot of times will have the advantage over most, even in the striking department, depending on, of course, the matchup and who exactly he's fighting. And of course, his ground game isn't nothing to joke about either. I mean, Scott has some decent wrestling and decent submission skill as well. But again, those are kind of kryptonite to him, because he has been beat on the ground, obviously, as well, with the Claudio loss, which was a bit of a disappointment. But overall, I think Scott probably doesn't get enough credit or doesn't get enough respect from the bettors out there, from the MMA community, because the guy definitely has a well put together game. It's just, can he show it and perform a little bit more steady? He's a little bit too inconsistent, and that's one big problem I have with Scott. Now, Jotco, he's not the flashiest fighter. He's nothing overly impressive. I mean, if you look at his game, you don't think, man, this guy, if you stand and bang with this guy, he's going to put you out. Or if you know what I mean, if you can, or he's going to out wrestle you, he's going to smother you on the ground. He's just very solid in every area, and he's continuing to improve his game. He's getting more confidence. He is a little bit more steady than Scott. And that's kind of why I'm leaning a little bit more towards him as well. I think in the striking aspect of things, he's going to have a little bit of reach, barely. I think it's only an inch or two over Scott. I think he could utilize that better. I think he's a little bit better and more effective in the clinch. I think his strike defense is a little bit better than Scott's as well. And I think his wrestling offensively can be a little bit more effective than Scott. And I think his takedown defense, I do trust it as well. So Jotco, even though this is a competitive fight, you could see a lot of similarities with both guys. I think Jotco's just put together a little bit more. He's a little bit more steady. And I think it's going to show in this fight where he's just going to barely edge Scott out, whether it's transitions on the ground, whether it's in the striking game, whether it's up against the cage and basically getting control and position over there. It just a little bit across the board. I think Jotco is going to have the edge, and I think that's why I'm leaning a decision here. I don't expect either guy to finish each other. They're very tough to finish, honestly. I know both of them have been subbed in the past before. They haven't been knocked out, so they both got chins on them. But that's another area, honestly, even though that Scott hasn't been officially knocked out, I do trust Jotco's even chin a little bit more. So, I mean, across the board, if you look at it, I think that it kind of is Jotco's fight to win or lose, but it is going to be a very competitive fight. I mean, this is going to be another coin flip type of fight. And as far as the judges go out there, I mean, this might be a difficult fight for them to score. So we've got to approach this fight with caution, especially at the betting window. If you guys are betting this fight, it's a difficult one to bet, but I do lean Jotco a little bit, because I think his fight IQ and his consistency is just a little bit better. And that's what it's come down to, in my opinion, in this fight. It's going to be that close. So just because of that, I lean towards Jotco to get the win.
Brad Scott has just been super inconsistent so far in his UFC career, just alternating wins and losses. And I mean, really the telling fight for me that kind of made me just not a believer in him whatsoever was the Claudio Silva fight, where, I mean, he clearly was the bigger, stronger guy and just got out grappled and lost a decision that he had no business losing. And even though he has picked up a pair of submission victories over Kuiper and Dylan Andrews, I mean, I just have not been that impressed with him overall. And I think the only area that he has an advantage over Jotco is maybe submissions. So if he can get a hold of Jotco's neck, then potentially he could pick up a win here. But other than that, I see Jotco just being the longer guy, working strikes from distance, landing jabs, landing some straight rights, and for the most part, just avoiding big, brawly type exchanges, because that's where Jotco kind of shines. He's also decent in the clinch where he can, just work over his opponent a little bit with elbows. And for the most part, that's all he needs to do. I mean, against Askam, he mixed in a little bit of wrestling, but I don't expect to see that here because he doesn't want to screw around too much with Scott's guillotine choke. And Jotco did spend some time in Thailand, about 3 weeks training for this fight. So I expect him to come out and be the aggressor on the feet and then just avoid getting too close and personal with Scott and then just either outpointing him or potentially getting a knockout. But for the most part, I expect him to win a decision because Jotco doesn't have a ton of power and doesn't throw with that evil intention of trying to put his opponent out. It's more he throws to do damage, he throws to score points, and that's really what works for him, and I think that's what's going to work for him here. Just Bradley Scott does not have enough ability overall to thwart what Jotco is going to try to do here. So I'm going to pick Krzysztof Jotco to get the win. Now dropping down to the featherweight division, we have Arnold Allen, who is 10-1, taking on Yautsin Mesa, who is 21-10 with 1 no contest. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
I open Allen minus 315, the comeback on Mesa plus 235. Right now looking over 5 times. It is Allen minus 350, the comeback on Mesa is plus 290. So even though I open it 3-1 over a solid veteran like Mesa, the public is game and they know overall the early betting has come in a little bit more on Allen. And I agree with it, honestly. I know Mesa sometimes gets a little bit too much disrespect from us. He's actually a pretty solid fighter. Of course, he trains with a lab. So he's got a good camp, a lot of good training partners to go with it. And he's got experience and he's really been a savvy vet throughout his career. So that's going to be the difference here for him and Allen, honestly, Mesa's been in there with some quality competition throughout his career. He's performed relatively well, pulled off some decent wins thus far. Even in the UFC, he hasn't looked bad. He's been up and down a little bit. I understand that. And he hasn't been tremendous, but at the same time, he's a tough out and he's a big test for a young prospect like Allen. And I think sky's the limit for a guy like Allen. He's only 22 years old. Mesa's actually 35 years old. So Mesa is the type of fighter that is kind of towards the end of his career and Allen's just getting started. So there's a lot to like about this fight because again, you have your savvy vet versus your up and coming prospect in Allen. And really when it comes down to Mesa, it's his ability to control the fight on the ground. His grappling game is the best attribute for him. And that's how he's going to have to win this fight against Allen. He's going to have to get some takedowns, try to control position, try to even possibly submit Allen on the ground. It's not going to be an easy task across the board really for Mesa because Allen, I think he's a well-rounded guy. I mean, he has the ability to stand and strike with people. He's got so much heart and he's got so much talent that he's able to pick you apart on the feet, land some effective punishment along the way. And then even his ground game, his scrambling ability. I think his wrestling is a little bit underrated as well. Now, is he going to want to play the ground game with Mesa? I don't know. That's going to be kind of tricky. And that's where he could run into some problems against a savvy vet like Mesa. So I think really Allen's going to have to use his complete overall MMA game to win this fight. And he is better across the board than Mesa is. I mean, again, I know that Mesa's been in there. He's pretty much seen it all, but I still think that Allen's the type of fighter that, he's a young gun that's going to come in there aggressive and hungry and he's going to be a little bit more effective in the striking game. I think he's going to be able to fend off Mesa enough for the takedown department that he's going to be able to land enough that he's going to do some damage along the way, possibly even finish Mesa. It's one of those fights that I could see Allen stopping a savvy vet like Mesa. If not, I think he's going to probably win a very close competitive decision. And that's where, again, you got to be a little bit cautious with, because if this fight does hit the scorecards, it probably means Mesa is going to hang in there and make life tough for Allen as well, which is great to me because I think, again, a big test for Allen and a test he should pass, and it'll kind of be another notch on his resume along the way of his growth and his potential at 145 is really good. I think that we'll eventually see this guy, if he continues to progress like he has, earn a title shot along the way, which is a lot to be said, but we'll see how it goes. It's still early in Allen's career. His debut against Omer was really a fun fight to watch. I think, in my opinion, Omer's a little bit underrated, and Allen was able to have some success against him as well, and obviously get the W there. So on short notice to boot. So that's the kind of fighter Allen is. He's going to come to fight. He's going to be prepared, and he's got a full training camp going into this fight. So I do pick Allen. I think the prospect is going to beat the savvy vet in this case.
I'd hold my breath a little bit on the title talk on Arnold Allen. I do think he's good, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. Allen is a good fighter. I think that he has a lot of promise. He's one of the better prospects out of the UK, clearly, in my opinion. and he needs a little bit more seasoning yet. On the feet, he's dangerous, but a little reckless and sloppy at times. He'll throw and leave himself off balance, open up opportunities for takedowns, and that's something where Mesa could take advantage. Mesa is going to be a little bit physically bigger in terms of height and reach, and Mesa is a pretty strong grappler overall, so that is something that Allen has to be careful about. I know Allen's going to want to be headhunting a little bit here. He wants to put Mesa down and get an impressive finish with his hands probably, but if he's too over eager to get that, then he's going to give Mesa opportunities to put him on his back. You saw that in the fight against Omer, where Allen was just unloading left hooks and almost falling down a little bit every once in a while. So he needs to be a little bit more composed, and I expect him to be because he's still so young, just 22 years old. That last fight was a short notice UFC debut, and he still ended up picking up a stoppage victory. So hats off to him. And this time around, he's going to have a full training camp. I think he's going to be super prepared. He trained at TriStar alongside some really great UK fighters like Tom Breeze or Ireland's Joe Duffy. So I expect him to come in here, and his striking is going to be a lot better than we saw the last time around. And it wasn't bad last time. I think it's going to be just a lot tighter this time. And his ground game is very good as well. I think he should be a little bit cautious, though, because that really is Mesa's world. That's where Mesa picks up most of his wins in the UFC. So if Allen screws around too much on the ground, I can see Mesa overpowering him a little bit there and potentially winning scrambles and getting top position. So I'd be a little cautious in that department if I was Allen, and I would just stick to where he has the biggest edge, and that is his speed. I believe his chin is way better than Mesa's. He should have more power, and he should have superior technique. Mesa's definitely pretty stiff in terms of his stand-up. So I think as long as Arnold Allen can keep this in the areas where he has a big advantage, then he's going to have a bright future, and he should have a strong showing here. So I'm going to pick Arnold Allen to win, hopefully convincingly. Now moving up to the middleweight division, we have Scott Askam, who is 13-2, taking on Chris Dempsey, who is 11-3. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in Askam, minus 300, the comeback on Dempsey, plus 220, and right now looking for 5 dimes. It is Askam, minus 340, the comeback on Dempsey, plus 280. Not really surprised. I mean, Dempsey's another one of these guys that doesn't really get respect from the MMA betting community at all. I mean, unfortunately for him, he's probably better than we all credit him for. I mean, he just doesn't have that flashy style. I mean, there's nothing really that stands out and says to you like, man, wow, this guy again is excellent in this area or excellent in that area. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, Dempsey's the type of guy that is just a grinder. I mean, he makes fights ugly. He does have a little bit of power. He's got some strength, obviously. That's one of his best attributes to go along with his wrestling. So he's going to look to take Askam down, control him a little bit, because on the feet, he's going to get picked apart and he's going to get smashed. I mean, Askam honestly has outstanding striking skill. Askam's kind of underperformed thus far in the UFC. I mean, it's unfortunate for him because I think he is talented and he's got really a lot of potential, especially middleweight. He's going to be a tough out. I mean, he's coming off a loss. Askam is to a split decision loss to Jotco. It was a competitive fight. But against Dempsey, I think it is a kind of a step down in competition, although he's going to have to, again, fend off Dempsey, looking to take him down, closing the distance, working him up against the cage, and trying to get top control. That's Dempsey's really his best path to victory against a guy like Askam. But I think Askam is going to be the more effective striker. I think his grappling overall is good enough to be able to get him out of some bad spots and get him back to where he wants to be, and that's on the feet. And then as far as chins go, I mean, Dempsey's chin is definitely questionable. Askam has enough knockout power to get the job done here and really probably put together a highlight reel type of finish. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this fight. It is what it is. I mean, Dempsey's going to be looking to kind of slow this fight down and control the tempo of the fight and kind of grind Askam out. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think Askam's going to be able to, for the most part, keep it upright and probably finish Dempsey along the way. That's why you're seeing him as a 340 favorite right now. So I think that's fairly accurate. And I think Askam is going to get the W here.
This fight just screams bounce back fight for Scott Askam. I think the UFC thought that this guy had a lot of potential to really make some waves in the middleweight division, and he's definitely disappointed so far. I mean, the seed and blood loss will give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he almost finished that one, had a very impressive showing his second fight, and then the last one losing a close decision to Jotco. And he just hasn't quite found his groove so far in his UFC career. Chris Dempsey is not a good fighter. He's probably the worst middleweight on the roster right now. I mean, even though Eddie Gordon lost that fight and is out of the UFC, I think a lot of people still thought Gordon, technically should have won it, but the judges awarded it for Dempsey. And really, Dempsey has not shown me anything so far that makes me think that he's really a UFC caliber fighter. He got absolutely slaughtered on short notice by Latifi at 205 pounds. And then his last fight, he went in there against Jonathan Wilson and he got crushed. So I think what's going to happen here is Askam just puts him against the fence and just starts unloading with punches and knees, and probably how it's going to end. Dempsey does have decent wrestling, so if he can put Askam down, that has been a bit of Askam's kryptonite in the past, but I don't think he can keep him down for 3 full rounds, and I don't see Dempsey getting a finish, so I expect Askam at some point to end this fight, preferably by knockout. So my pick is going to be Scott Askam. Now dropping down to the bantamweight division, we have Davey Grant, who is 9-2, taking on Marlon Vera, who is 7-2-1. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
Up in Grant minus 245, the comeback on Vera plus 175. Right now, there has been some movement. Grant is down to minus 175. The comeback on Vera is plus 155. I don't know if I'm really surprised. I wasn't sure exactly which way the public could go on this fight. I'm kind of glad that they're coming in on Vera in some ways. Again, no disrespect to Vera, because I know he's a young guy that's 23 years old, training at Jackson's right now. Of course, he's an Ultimate Fighter veteran as well. And he's got some potential. And if he keeps on improving his game, we could see him make some waves at 135 for sure. But in my opinion, I'm really happy to see Grant returning. I mean, he's been out since his tough 18 finale loss to Holdsworth. Which was a pretty good fight. I mean, while it lasted there, it was definitely, you saw some good things from Grant, and not just that, but even on the Ultimate Fighter show that season. I mean, I think he was one of the more impressive, fighters from that cast as well. So despite the loss to Holdsworth, I think Grant is going to be a real player at 135. Now, the problem is with Grant, I mean, he suffered some injuries. He had a torn meniscus. That's why he wasn't able to fight against Delorme. And, he's been out for a couple of years now. So that is definitely a concern. But skill set to skill set, I think Grant is on another level. I mean, Vera is the type of guy that's still kind of developing. Again, he's getting better. So he's younger. He's got more time to improve, and he is improving fight by fight. But still, I just don't really see an area where Vera is that much better or better at all than Grant. I think Grant has the wrestling edge in this fight. I know Vera, maybe his kicking game is probably the thing that stands out to me the most as far as, I mean, if he does have any edge at all, it's probably that. But probably that alone. I think even in the boxing, Grant can be effective in the striking part of the game. I think Grant, again, is going to probably be able to out-wrestle and control Vera. I don't think Vera is going to submit Grant off his back, because Vera does have some sneaky good subs. I mean, even if you put him on his back, he's dangerous. He attacks from all areas, but he does have a tendency to slow down. And against a savvy vet like Grant, even though he's been finished by sub a couple times, I don't think he's going to get the job done against Grant. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see Grant actually submit Vera, because Grant is very talented on the ground. And he's very dangerous offensively as well. So, to me, that's why I'm kind of glad to see the action flowing in a little bit more towards Vera, because I think the sportsbooks are probably going to need Grant, and that's okay with me, because I think he is going to get the W here, and I think he's going to kind of bounce back. I mean, a couple years after, we thought he had all that potential and all that promise, and kind of get on track and start his UFC career at this point on, in 2016, to start doing some good things at 135 and hopefully stay injury free. Because if so, I mean, the guy is going to be a tough out for a lot of people in the bantamweight division because of his skill set. And I think we're going to continue to see him improve. I mean, he's only 30 years old, so he's not a young gun, but at the same time, he's not that spot where you got to be concerned with his age either. So he's in kind of the peak or the prime of his career right now. And he's got some time to show that he can accomplish some things at 135. And I think it starts here. So I'm going to pick Grant to maybe possibly finish Vera. If he doesn't finish him, I think he at least wins a decision. So my pick is going to be Grant to win.
Vera's a good fighter, but I just think Grant's the better fighter. I mean, as Nick mentioned, we haven't seen him since the loss to Chris Holdsworth on the TUF 18 finale. I mean, that is ages ago, like nearly 2.5 years. And it's because he's been dealing with some serious knee injuries. He actually made weight for a fight against Roland Delorme, and then the commission found out about a knee injury that he was entering the fight with and scrapped the fight at the last second. So This is a guy that just wants to go out there and compete, and hopefully he's healthy, because if he's healthy, this is a winnable fight. Marlon Vera's a good fighter. He has decent kicks from distance. He's pretty game on the ground, especially off of his back, with some decent triangle chokes and arm bars and stuff that he can throw up. But for the most part, he's too content to be on his back. His takedown defense is not very good. And if he is not able to get any submissions going on the ground, then he's going to lose scrambles and get outpointed and lose decisions. And I think that's where Davey Grant is going to have some success. Grant is a good wrestler. He's a solid overall ground fighter. Wasn't on the level of Chris Holdsworth, but he should be better than Vera on the canvas. And I expect what's going to happen here is, as long as Grant is healthy, as long as his conditioning is on point after all that time off and he can shake off the rust, then I expect him to get takedowns, get top control, and then either work for a finish from top position or ride out to a decision. So I just don't expect Vera to put up enough of a threat to get the win, and I expect Davey Grant to get that first UFC W. So my pick is going to be Davey Grant. Now moving up to the featherweight division, we have Mike Wilkinson, who is 9-1, taking on Makwan Amir Khani, who is 12-2. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in Amir Khani, minus 165, the comeback on Wilkinson, plus 125. Right now, Amir Khani is minus 190. The comeback on Wilkinson is plus 165. So public coming in Amir Khani's way. I'm sure a lot of you guys aren't surprised. I'm not really all that shocked either. Amir Khani has that crazy hype around him. I mean, the guy has been out there and he's performed really well. I mean, I think his average fight time is like 50 seconds thus far in the UFC, and he's got two really quick wins. Now, against level competition, I don't know. I mean, the Ogle win was still, in my opinion, his debut was still a little bit flukish. You got to give him credit for landing that flying knee, but at the same time, and actually catching Ogle like he did. But I think if that fight plays out, he might not have beat Andy Ogle, honestly. And then, of course, he was able to submit Fullen really quick by rear naked choke in his last fight as well. So we haven't really got to see Amir Khani perform. Now, he's another one of those guys that has some hype, again, has the popularity, but has, in my opinion, some raw skill. He needs to develop a lot more. And I think this is a tough matchup for him against Wilkinson. Honestly, I think this is the spot where we are going to see him get tested here. And I don't know if he's going to pass that test. I think Wilkinson's actually a step ahead of him in a lot of ways. I think Wilkinson is the better wrestler in this fight. I think Wilkinson is actually the better striker overall in this fight as well. Now, of course, Amir Khani has a little bit of length and he does have a little bit of power and he's got some finishing potential. So Wilkinson has to be careful because Amir Khani can be dangerous. Especially not being the most, with that rawness that Amir Khani still has, I mean, sometimes that aggressiveness can be overwhelming at times, but I think Wilkinson's going to be okay. I know he was finished and submitted by Hani Jason, but I'm not sure that Amir Khani can really replicate that in this fight against Wilkinson. I think it's Wilkinson's fight to win or lose here, honestly. I think he can control the pace, even though he's going to, again, be a little bit of a reach disadvantage. I think he's going to be the more effective striker. I think if he wants to put Amir Khani on his back, he will be able to, and I don't think Amir Khani is going to sub him off his back. So really, I mean, all signs to me are pointing at Wilkinson having another impressive performance. I mean, a lot of people counted him out. I should mention this as well. I mean, in his last fight against Backstrom, I was surprised as well. I mean, how easily he was able to win by KO. He caught Backstrom pretty early in that fight. I mean, that's the kind of power that Wilkinson has as well, but that's not really the best attribute of his game. Again, it's kind of his wrestling, his control overall, and he's the type of fighter, he's young enough still too, that he's going to be improving. And now, having a marquee win, I mean, Backstrom, there was a ton of hype around Backstrom coming into that fight, and Wilkinson was able to pick him off. So there's got to be a confidence level to Wilkinson that he's never really had before. So I'm sure he wants to derail the hype train of Amir Khani. I mean, who doesn't in those situations? So he's going to be game. He's going to be ready to fight, and I think he's going to pull off the win. So I think Wilkinson could win on the cards. I think Wilkinson could possibly finish Amir Khani along the way as well. So it's his fight to win or lose, and I'm going to pick him to win.
Something lost in the first impression of Makwan Amir Khani to everybody is the fact that he's really not that technical or skilled in any one area. He's just been very aggressive and athletic so far, and that people's eyes have been opened by that. But I think if he actually gets put into a position where he's sucked into a longer, more drawn-out affair, he's going to get exposed. He is a good fighter. He trains at a good gym with All-Stars, but he's still very raw, kind of like, I mentioned about Danho, the heavyweight. I mean, he's got a little bit more skills than that, but The guy is deficient in a lot of areas, including overall striking technique. His ground game is still sloppy. It's just he's faced fighters so far that he was able to just overcome that by just overwhelming them quickly. Like, he hasn't faced world beaters yet. And Mike Wilkinson isn't a world beater, but he is a very competent fighter. And you saw that in his fight against Backstrom, where Backstrom was this super hyped prospect and came in there super flashy, throwing a lot of push kicks and flying knees and just being very aggressive. And Wilkinson ate a push kick right to the face and landed a right hand and put him out cold. And that's the type of thing that he could do against Makwan Amir Khani. But even more so, Wilkinson has a very good wrestling game. And while Amir Khani does come from a wrestling base, I think Wilkinson's wrestling is better. And I expect if Amir Khani gets way too flashy and crazy in there, then Wilkinson's going to take him down. And I don't think Amir Khani is going to present nearly as much of a threat off of his back as he has from other areas. Now, Wilkinson was triangle choked, but against Tony Jason, but I don't think Amir Khani even has close to that level of submission ability from his back. So what you're going to see here is Wilkinson being composed on the feet, and he does have some serious power in that right hand. And he is a good overall technical boxer. And if he finds openings, he's going to, let it rip. But I think he's going to be looking for openings to get his takedowns. And when Amir Khani comes into loosey-goosey, you're going to see Wilkinson get those takedowns. And I would be shocked if Amir Khani was able to reverse those. Now, Amir Khani is going to be the longer fighter. He's going to be the quicker overall fighter. And he might have as much power or explosiveness as Wilkinson, but I really think that Wilkinson can overcome that with the pure boxing technique that he possesses and the wrestling. And I expect Wilkinson to either win a decision here by grinding this out and playing it safe, or knocking Amir Khani out if he gets a little too wild or reckless. So I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by this one, but I'm picking Mike Wilkinson. Now, dropping down to the bantamweight division, we have Francisco Rivera, who is 11-5 with 1 no contest, taking on Brad Picket, who is 25-11. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
Up in Rivera, minus 215, the comeback on Picket, plus 165. And right now, it's actually Rivera, minus 200, the comeback on Picket is plus 170. So line margins kind of tightened up a little bit, and there's two-way action coming in on this fight. And parlays, of course, getting put in more towards Rivera. This is a tough one too, really, because obviously we all know what's going on with Rivera. I mean, he's got dynamite in his hands. The guy can definitely slug with the best of them. He can put people out. He's a very dangerous fighter, and he's facing a guy that's aging, and his chin has been checked, and he's been wobbled, and he's been knocked out before, in a guy like Brad Picket. But if you take out the fact that, the questionable chin somewhat of Picket, he's a tough guy. I mean, Picket has no real quit in him, but I mean, that's definitely Rivera's advantage there, is that knockout power going basically up against Pickett's chin. But outside of that, Pickett's the better fighter. Pickett's the better wrestler. I think Picket is the more technical striker. He's got some power in his hands in his own right. I think Pickett's the better submission fighter. So across the board, Picket is just more quality. I mean, I know Rivera, again, he's getting better. He's been pretty impressive. A lot of people believe even in his loss to Faber, he was doing really well. And if that fight played out a little bit differently, or unfortunately, if the foul didn't occur, that he might have actually been able to pull off the upset against Faber. I'm not sure about that. I think that he probably would have lost that fight anyway, but still, he's gaining that kind of respect. And of course, he goes out there and just floors Caceres. Caceres, of course, knows where he's known for a questionable chin, so that wasn't a big surprise. And then he gets in that crazy firefight against Lineker, and that was ridiculous because those guys were slugging it out. And that's not the type of fight IQ that you want to see, but sometimes Lineker brings that kind of stuff out of you. So he is coming off of a guillotine loss, but it was kind of more of a rock you, kind of submit you type of fight for Rivera there that he got beat. I don't know. This fight's tough. I know, again, I think his best way to win his fight is really knocking Picket out. But if he doesn't do that, I think he's going to lose a fight. So in my opinion, even though Rivera has more than a puncher's chance in most cases because he's able to win even on the scorecards, because he can outpoint people. I mean, his striking is good. I don't know. I think Pickett's going to give him a difficult time here. I know Picket, again, is 37 years old, so it's kind of hard to pick him straight out. But I'm going to do that. I think that if he doesn't get knocked out, he's going to win this fight. And there's a chance that Picket takes Rivera's back, finishes him on the ground as well. There is a chance that, I mean, we're talking about chins. Picket could land and probably put Rivera out as well. So I don't know. I'm just not as confident as everybody else out there with Rivera. And I think that maybe we're underestimating Picket a little bit here because Picket really has been facing great competition. So this isn't really going to be something that he hasn't seen before. I mean, he's faced hard hitters throughout his UFC career. I mean, even recently, his last fight against Almeida, I mean, he was looking good in that fight. I mean, he was giving Almeida a lot of problems, but of course, that knee was just ridiculous from Almeida and he got put out. But I'm saying that Pickett's been up to the task against dangerous opponents before, and he's actually performed relatively well. So I'm going to pick him to win. I'm going to go with the upset special here, and I think that Picket can get the job done because I just trust him a little bit more. His skill set is better than Rivera's from top to bottom, so I got to go with it. If Rivera doesn't win by knockout, I don't think he's going to win the fight. I said it again, and I really, truly believe that. So my pick is going to be Picket to pull off the upset win over Rivera.
Yeah, I actually agree. Brad Picket is definitely the more well-rounded fighter of the two between him and Francisco Rivera. Now, Rivera does have more pure one-punch power. I mean, the guy is just a mauler on the feet in terms of fight finishing ability, especially in the bantamweight division. Rivera's a vet, 34 years old, but, I mean, he goes out there and he just tries to take people's heads off. And when he connects, he does. So, Brad Picket will absolutely need to be extremely cautious in that realm. But overall, Brad Picket is the more well-rounded fighter. Picket, in my opinion, is the more technical striker. I mean, you saw some great striking fundamentals in his bout against Thomas Almeida, where he had Almeida in serious trouble because he was using good movement, he was setting up strikes, he was working inside, and he clipped Almeida a couple times, had him on the ropes. And he's the only fighter in the UFC so far that has really been able to put Almeida in some trouble. So you got to give some credit to Picket. A lot of veteran savviness there. And that's not the only area that he's strong. If Picket wants to mix it up and give himself the best chance to win this fight, then he needs to use all of his game, and that includes the ground game. His wrestling is pretty good. His ground game is spectacular in terms of his ability to set up chokes, rear naked chokes, arm bars. I mean, the guy even pulled off a Peruvian necktie once in the WEC. So if he can get this fight to the floor, he's going to improve his odds of winning drastically. And that's really what is going to happen here, in my opinion, is Pickett's going to be aggressive and just try to wait for Rivera to open up a little bit too much, get a little too wild on the feet. And the second that happens, I think Picket can change levels and get him on his back. That being said, Rivera has so much knockout ability that if he does connect during those exchanges, then Picket can be put out. Pickett's getting up there in years as well, and he is coming off of the first full-on knockout of his career. He has been dropped and hurt before in fights, but that was the first time he ever got finished by strikes. And Rivera does have that same ability of landing a punch just as hard as Thomas Almeida's knee was. So Picket will have to be cautious. He'll have to, keep a high guard and use a lot of good movement if he wants to win this fight. But the only way Francisco Rivera wins it is by knockout. I do not see Rivera winning a decision. So I think if Picket can mix it up and utilize all of his skills, he's still got enough left in the tank to pick up a quality win here. So my pick is actually going to be veteran Brad Picket as well. Now moving up to the welterweight division, we have Tom Breeze, who is 9-0, taking on Keita Nakamura, who is 31-6-2 with 1 no contest. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Breeze minus 705 to come back on Nakamura plus 435. That was not enough. The public did bet it up. It's minus 1100 now for Breeze, and the comeback is Nakamura plus 700. So one of those situations that you just can't go high enough with the line sometimes, and that's Tom Breeze. And it's really because of the hype and the potential. I mean, we've all heard a lot of good things before his UFC debut with Breeze. And I mean, so far it's lived to be true. I mean, he's only 24 years old. He's training at TriStar. He's getting better all the time. I like his size. I like his technique. I like everything really about his game at this point, and it's only getting better. I mean, he's more known for his ground game. He's got slick submission skills. He's got pretty solid wrestling technique. Everything across the board in his ground game is pretty put together well. But now the thing is with Breeze, you're starting to see his striking improve. I mean, again, that's all the training he's getting from TriStar. He's becoming a more effective striker. He's getting a little bit more confidence. He's got power to go along with it. There's a lot of good things to like about Breeze. That's why you're seeing him in such really a good position here against Nakamura. Nakamura is actually a very good fighter. I know that he had to come back and pull off that crazy win over Lee in his last fight. That was ridiculous. That was one of the best comebacks I've seen in a while. So you got to give him credit for doing that, but he was in all sorts of trouble in that fight, and he's not going to have that opportunity here against Breeze. I mean, Breeze is going to be able to finish the job if he does get Nakamura hurt or wears him out down a little bit, or possibly even, I know Nakamura has a great ground game, and that's his best attribute as well. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Breeze finish this fight anywhere, whether it's on the feet or on the floor or even on the scorecards. I doubt this fight goes to the cards. Honestly, I think we will see Breeze win inside. But that being said, Nakamura, I'm glad he finally got his shot in the UFC. Unfortunately, I think it just came a little bit too late. I think Nakamura, even though he's only 31 years old, he's been in so many great fights throughout his career. He's kind of on the decline end of his career. So it's not good timing really for him to come into the UFC at this point. But again, I'm glad he's there, and he can definitely give a lot of fighters some fits because his wrestling game, his ground and pound game from the top is really fantastic, and he's got a good submission game as proven in his last fight as well. I mean, he's been doing that kind of stuff throughout his career. So Nakamura, a very quality fighter, but I just think Breeze is going to be too much for him. I'm not going to keep on going in this fight. I mean, it's pretty obvious that I think Breeze can beat him anywhere the fight takes place, and I think he's going to get the job done. So my pick is going to be Breeze to win.
I'm going to keep this one short and simple. I think this fight is going to be over very quickly. Nakamura is a good veteran. He earned the right to come back to the UFC and did pick up a win over Li Jingliang in his last fight. But I do not think that he is even close to the caliber of Tom Breeze. This is a showcase fight. Tom Breeze is potentially the best prospect to come out of the UK in years. I think this guy will be a top 15 fighter after this fight, and potentially could definitely be a guy to be a contender someday. So Nakamura, he got rocked and hurt by Li Jingliang in his return to the UFC, and Tom Breeze has amazing ground skills. I mean, that's where he started his career, and now he's developing excellent striking, and he has serious power, great straight left hand, can do some serious damage with it, and he's not reckless. He's very technical and composed up there. So even if he hurts Nakamura, he's not going to rush into anything. Nakamura's biggest strength is his ground game, his submissions, and that's where Breeze was basically born in his mixed martial arts career. So I don't see any way that Nakamura, not even a fluke knockout type of situation, that Nakamura can pull this off. I would be flabbergasted if he won. I think Tom Breeze cruises. Maybe he breezes. Terrible joke, but I think Tom Breeze wins convincingly, probably first round knockout. So that's going to be my pick. Now moving up to the middleweight division, we have Gegard Mousasi, who is 37-6-2, taking on Talis Leus, who is 25-5. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
I put Mousasi minus 265 to come back on latest plus 185. Right now it is actually Mousasi minus 325. Latest is plus 265. So it has been bet up a little bit. Again, in a spot where I'm not really surprised because Mousasi, I mean, he deserves the hype and the respect that he's getting from the bettors. I mean, for his performances throughout his UFC career thus far. I know it's kind of been up and down for Mousasi, but at the same time, I think that, I mean, everybody is not blind to see the potential and the talent that Mousasi has. I mean, it's been like that for a long time with Mousasi. And what the impressive part for me is he's really elevated his game to another level, and especially with his wrestling and grappling. I mean, we've all known for a long time that Mousasi is a very capable striker. He's a very dangerous striker. He's an elite level striker in most cases. But he's worked his wrestling and his ground game enough that he can be effective everywhere the fight takes place. So he's a very complete fighter, and he's a dangerous fighter at middleweight. And I think, I mean, right now, he needs to get back on track, obviously, but I think he's going to get a shot at the middleweight title one day. I mean, the way the middleweight division, I mean, it's full of sharks right now. It's a very tough division. I think Mousasi's right there in the mix, and he's got to get back on track with the win over Leus if he wants to accomplish anything. And that necessarily is not going to be easy. I mean, I do believe that Leus is another one of the guys. I could say a lot of the same things about him. He's improving his career. He's more of the grappling-based fighter. I mean, we all know that he's tremendous on the ground, an elite-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, but he's actually been improving his stand-up game. So kind of opposites, where Mousasi is the striker improving his ground game, and Leus is the ground guy improving his striking game. So it is an interesting clash of styles here because both of these guys have rounded off their game pretty well, and they're both capable of finishing the fight anywhere it takes place. Mousasi, for being a striker, can finish people on the ground, and Leus, for being a grappler, has been knocking people out as well. He's developing power and a little bit of confidence on the feet. So, I mean, it's a tougher fight than I think people realize here, because Leus is a hard guy to stop. He's never been finished throughout his career. So Mousasi, I don't know if he's going to be able to finish him with strikes here, honestly. And then even if he gets him to the ground, I think Leus, that's his area where he can do the most damage and get control and out grapple Mousasi still. Even though Mousasi's grappling's improved, make no mistake, Leus is still the better grappler of the two and has the advantage on the ground. And then you can say the same thing, even though Leus has improved his striking, Mousasi still has a significant advantage on the feet. So really, styles make fights, and this is an interesting clash of styles, and it's going to play out, I think, where Mousasi is going to be able to do enough on the feet where he's going to probably outpoint Leus. There might be times where these guys kind of hurt each other, but I think they're tough enough they can survive, even if they do get rocked back and forth or whatever, even if it does play out again. I don't think Leus is going to be as effective as Mousasi is on the feet, but I still think he's got enough power to make things interesting, especially since Mousasi is coming off that crazy knockout loss. I mean, the first time he's ever been knocked out, with that crazy jump spinning back kick that Hall landed on him. I mean, you could say whatever. I mean, it was kind of flukish, but at the same time, that's kind of what Hall does. So Mousasi should have been better prepared, and he should have been able to possibly avoid that, even though the timing was great with that strike. And you got to give him the benefit of the doubt that, I mean, I don't think we see anything crazy like that for a while again happen to Mousasi, but he has been put out. He was rocked. I mean, he was finished in that fight, so we're not sure. I mean, once a guy gets finished for the first time, you're not sure how he's going to bounce back and how he's going to look. And Leus has enough power where he could make life interesting, even though Mousasi has the advantage on the feet. So I'm still going to side with Mousasi. I mean, as far as the line goes, you guys got to be cautious out there laying 325 against a great grappler like Leus that is developing his power. I'm not sure if there's any true value there, so be careful there. But as far as the pick goes, I mean, it's hard not to pick Mousasi in this spot. I think he does probably win this fight and get back on track and get back in the mix of a potential title shot down the road.
Yeah, this is definitely a dangerous fight for Mousasi, and I think more so because of Leus' grappling ability than his striking. Yeah, Leus has some power, but I really do think that last loss for Mousasi to Hall was a fluke. And I don't think that it was the type of thing that Mousasi's chin could be questionable, because, I mean, spinning back kick followed by a flying knee, that'll put anybody out. I don't care how good your chin is. That was just a crazy situation that he was in. Leus does not possess that type of striking. He does have okay kicks, not even close to the realm of what Uriah Hall possesses. Does not throw a lot of flying knees or anything. He's just more a guy that has pretty heavy hands, and Mousasi should be able to handle that. Mousasi is definitely the more rangy, overall dynamic striker of the two, has really good boxing. And I expect Mousasi to hold his own on the feet, get the better of Leus, and try to win a decision there. And if it does go to the ground, Mousasi's wrestling is underrated. It has really improved drastically. You saw it in the Hall fight where he took Hall down and was in top control for the majority of the first round. And I would not be shocked. I mean, I'd be a little surprised, but it would not be shocked if you saw Mousasi showcase a little bit of the wrestling here too. So for Leus to win, he either needs to land a huge punch on the feet and put Mousasi out, or he needs to get this fight to the floor and utilize his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, because he does have excellent grappling overall. Mousasi is a good grappler as well, so I don't know how a scramble would go. I think it'd be pretty exciting if it happened, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. But that's really Leus' path to victory. He needs to close the distance and potentially get on top of Mousasi and grind this out a little bit. So I think that's going to be difficult for him. I think Mousasi can keep his distance or even get on top position if it does go to the ground. So I'm going to side with Mousasi. I think he bounces back, but this is a terrific matchup, and I expect it to be relatively competitive. Now moving on to the main event of the evening, a fight we've been waiting for a long time. We've got former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva, who is 34-6, taking on Michael Bisping, who is 28-7 overall. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how is the public shifter things so far?
I opened Silva minus 235, the comeback on Bisping plus 178, and right now it's actually Silva minus 320, the comeback on Bisping is plus 260. Not crazy surprised with the movement either. I did open it maybe a tad bit low, but at the same time, honestly, these days, I just don't have a lot of confidence in the Spider. And I know that's kind of hard to say, but it is true. Even in his bounce back fight against Nick Diaz, which he got the W, and I know it's been since overturned with the steroid allegations and all that stuff that Silva went through. But I don't know. It wasn't that impressive to me, even though Diaz is a warrior and he's not necessarily the easiest out at times. I just think what we've seen here is, I mean, Silva was pound for pound the best fighter on the planet for a while. I mean, he's one of the best, if not the best ever in the middleweight division for sure. I mean, it's hard to argue that he's not. I mean, I respect everything the guy's accomplished. It's just his devastating striking style. I mean, the guy has skill everywhere, but he is one of the most accurate and effective strikers we're ever going to see. But at this point of his career, I'm not sure if we're still going to see that type of Silva. And for Bisping right now, I mean, I think even though Bisping is, again, on kind of the latter part of his career as well, I think he is a bit of a decline himself. This is the best opportunity he's ever had to beat Anderson Silva. I mean, even though I opened it low at 235 and now it's 300, I mean, a few years back, this line would be ridiculous. It would be so high that it would definitely be untouchable. So even with it being 300, that tells you that Bisping has an outside shot to pull this off. And that's crazy to even think that, but it's true. I mean, we just don't know what Silva we're going to see here against Bisping. Bisping's a very smart fighter. He's got the IQ. Obviously, he's got his best attribute is his striking as well. So it kind of plays into the hands of Silva. But at the same time, Bisping's a pretty intelligent fighter where I think defensively he does get tagged. He does get hurt at times, and he's been knocked out. I mean, the chin is definitely a suspect issue that you have to be concerned about with Bisping. But at the same time, I think his fight IQ and overall awareness is smart enough that he knows what Silva's going to offer. And at times, Silva does tend to get a little bit tentative and doesn't throw like he should. So I think Bisping has a shot to possibly pull off this upset and outpoint Silva along the way. Now, we were talking about Bisping's chin not being that confident in that. I mean, honestly, Silva at this age, he's 40 years old. I mean, even though he's had a pretty solid chin throughout his career, I'm not sure what we're going to see in Bisping at this point. I think we could see Silva possibly getting put out and knocked out by Bisping, which that would be kind of shocking at the same time, but he is, again, 40 years old, so nothing would surprise me in this fight. I think you have to lean towards Silva in this spot because he is the accurate striker, and one thing you don't lose, even with age, is some power. So I think he's going to be the more dangerous, more effective striker, but man, it's in Bisping's backyard. I mean, you could tell by the way Bisping's been talking, he's not really intimidated by Silva. That's one thing that people have gotten over, really. A lot of people were just intimidated by Silva even before they stepped into the octagon against him. I mean, they were almost beat. Well, in this case, that kind of mystique about Silva is out the window. I mean, people are going to be confident. They're not going to be afraid to throw down with Silva, and Bisping seems to be kind of going that route as well. So I'm not confident in this fight, and I can't believe I'm even saying that. I mean, Silva should win this fight more times than not, and I just think that it's going to be a pretty close competitive decision, and it might actually be a letdown fight for both guys here, and Bisping has the opportunity. I just can't pick him, though. I can't pick him to beat Silva still at this point because I do just still trust Silva a little bit more as far as, I guess, the chins go, and I think that he can outstrike Bisping because Bisping, in a way, he might actually try to use his wrestling here. I think that might be a way to beat Silva, too. I know Silva's improved his takedown defense quite a bit, but I mean, wrestling has been improved by Bisping as well. So I'm not sure how this fight's going to end up playing out, honestly. But what I do know is I'm going to give Silva the benefit of the doubt, even though he hasn't looked great against Diaz and he's coming off back-to-back losses with Weidman, the suspension, the time off and all that stuff. Bisping could be getting him at the right time, but it's still hard to pick against Spider. So I would be cautious again, picking this fight or betting this fight, I should say, at laying 300 against Silva, even though he is the legend and the guy that's supposed to win this fight. Just be careful out there. I am going to pick him to win, but I'm not confident in as far as the bet goes.
I think you're giving Michael Bisping a little bit too much of the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he's 2 fights removed from getting absolutely crushed by Luke Rockhold, who's now the champ, so okay. But then his next 2 fights, he has CB Dalloway, which was a competitive decision, and he almost, he got hurt in that fight. And then the Talaslitis, a 5-round split decision that literally could have gone either way. I was sweating bullets in that fight because I had a bet on Bisping, and I thought Litis could have clearly walked away with the win there. Bisping has not looked that good in his last 3 fights, really, and I think a lot of it has to do with the eye injury that he had, where his right eye, which gets hit by Anderson Silva's left hand, which is one of his most dangerous strikes, he doesn't quite see strikes coming from there nearly as well ever since he had surgery on that eye. And I'm definitely concerned about Michael Bisping here, because if he's not able to see anything from Anderson Silva's left side coming as well as from the other side, then he's in for a world of hurt. Anderson Silva has some of the sneakiest left attacks in MMA. I mean, the guy is so dynamic when he's on, and if he comes back even close to the level that he used to be, granted, we have not seen that Anderson Silva in years, but, I mean, he seems incredibly motivated. He does not want to leave a bad taste in people's mouths for the finish of his career. And I think what's going to happen here is Michael Bisping is going to be real hyped up. He's going to be crazy motivated to go out there and do something, and then he's just going to be brought back down to earth, because that's what always happens when Michael Bisping has a big fight. I mean, you can go through his career over and over again, all those opportunities that he had to actually earn a fight against Anderson Silva when Silva was the champ, and he lost every one of them, whether it was UFC 100 against Dan Henderson or Luke Rockhold or Chael Sonnen, just time and time again. Vitor Belfort, he just came up short whenever he had an opportunity to just get one more win and he'd fight for the title. And yeah, he's getting this fight against Anderson now that Anderson isn't the champ, and I think it's going to be a nightmare for him. If Anderson is at his best, then I expect Silva to keep his distance, just work him over with kicks, land some great straight punches, utilize that good head movement that he's always had, and I think Bisping's going to have a lot of trouble hitting Anderson with anything he throws. And even if he does hit him, even though Anderson's chin isn't the best, I don't think Bisping has the power to really scare Silva there. Really, the only way I can see Bisping scoring any points in this fight, to be completely honest with you, is if he uses his wrestling. His wrestling actually has improved a bit over his career, and he's won some fights with that, and maybe he can out-grapple Silva a little bit. But if Silva is able to keep his distance and use proper footwork, then Bisping will be shooting from way too far out, and I don't expect him to be able to get a hold of Silva and drag him to the floor easily. So I just think this is going to be a nightmare matchup for Michael Bisping. He's just getting too far into his career, and even though Anderson Silva's 40 years old, I expect Anderson Silva to not just win, but make a statement here, and people will actually be talking about him in title contention despite, pretty much being near the end of his career. But I expect a very impressive performance from Anderson Silva, and no matter how hard Michael Bisping tries, I just don't think he's going to be able to pull this one off. So that'll do it for our full event breakdown for UFC Fight Night 84. Part 2 of the Premium Oddscast, featuring our premium bets, will be out this Friday following the weigh-ins. So stay tuned for that if you're an MMA Oddsbreaker Premium member. Also, if you'd like to become a premium member, just go to MMAOddsbreaker.com and you can sign up in the top right corner of our homepage. If we have a free play to give out, make sure to follow at MMAOB Premium on Twitter, because that's where we'll post them first. We can also notify you of our free bets via email alert if you prefer that method. Just send an email to picks@MMAOddsbreaker.com and we'll add you to our free bet mailing list. Special thanks to our sponsor, 5 Dimes Sportsbook. Good luck, everyone, and hopefully the betting gods are on your side this weekend.